The text from Ronald lit up my phone screen like a bad omen. After 2 years of silence, seeing his name there made my stomach clench. We need to talk. It's important. Classic Ronald. Always assuming I'd drop everything for family drama. I'm Scarlett, and I come from a long line of lawyers who treat the courtroom like their second home. Growing up, dinner conversations revolved around case law and billable hours, while my interest in holistic wellness and entrepreneurship was dismissed as a phase. Just delete it, Freya said, sliding a fresh latte across her cafe counter. The morning rush had died down, leaving us alone with the gentle hum of coffee machines. You don't owe them anything. I know. I took a sip, savoring the perfectly crafted heart in the foam. But aren't you curious? The mighty Fernandez law firm reaching out to the black sheep? Freya wiped down the counter, her silver bangles jingling. The same black sheep whose wellness brand just hit 7 figures? Funny timing. She had a point. My online business had exploded in the past year. What started as wellness coaching in my tiny apartment had grown into a thriving brand with over 50,000 loyal customers. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my family mocked my little hobby, I was building something real. Remember what your mother said when you quit the firm? Freya asked. How could I forget? You're throwing away generations of legacy for some internet fad. I mimicked Naomi's condescending tone. That was right before she told me I was no longer welcome at Sunday dinners. My phone buzzed again. Ronald. Please, Scar. Mom and Dad don't know I'm reaching out. He's using the nickname, I told Freya. Must be desperate. Or manipulative, she countered. Your brother didn't exactly stand up for you when everything went down. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and I nearly dropped my cup. Oscar walked in, his tie loosened and dark circles under his eyes. He'd been my ally at the firm, the only one who understood why I left. Scarlett? He looked surprised to see me. I thought you'd be at the emergency meeting. What emergency meeting? He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Shit, you don't know? The firm. It's not good. Partners gathering right now to discuss options. My phone buzzed a third time. Ronald. Meeting you at Freya's in 10. Don't leave. Guess I'm about to find out, I said, showing Oscar the message. I should go, he replied, backing toward the door. But Scarlett, whatever they ask you, be careful. Things aren't what they seem. Freya started stress baking, her go-to response to tension. The smell of chocolate chip cookies filled the air as we waited. You know what this means, right? She asked, sliding a tray into the oven. They're finally getting what's coming to them. Before I could respond, the bell chimed again. Ronald stood in the doorway, his designer suit wrinkled and his usual smugness replaced by something I'd never seen before. Fear. Hey, sis, he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We need to talk about Dad's retirement fund. Retirement fund? I raised an eyebrow. Last I heard, the firm was doing better than ever. Things change. He glanced at Freya, who was pretending not to listen, while wiping the same spot on the counter repeatedly. Can we talk privately? Anything you need to say, you can say in front of her. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. She's more family than some people I could mention. Ronald sank into the chair, his shoulders slumping. The firm's in trouble. Serious trouble. We need... He swallowed hard. We need your help. I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. You mean you need my money? It's not just about money, he insisted, leaning forward. There's more going on. Things you don't know about. Things I'm not supposed to tell anyone. My phone lit up again, this time with a news notification. My heart stopped as I read the headline. Prestigious law firm under investigation for financial irregularities. Ronald, I said, turning the phone to show him. What exactly have you done? His face went pale. Not here, not now. But if you want the whole truth, meet me at the house tonight. Everyone will be there. He stood up, straightening his jacket with trembling hands. Please, Scar, for old time's sake. As he hurried out, Freya placed a warm cookie in front of me. Well, she said, Looks like karma's finally catching up with them. I picked up the cookie, considering my options. After 2 years of silence, my family needed me. The perfect opportunity for revenge had just landed in my lap, served with a side of poetic justice. Tonight should be interesting, I said, a smile playing at my lips. Very interesting indeed. The family house loomed before me, its Georgian columns casting long shadows in the evening light. I'd forgotten how imposing it felt, how small it made me feel. Before I could ring the doorbell, Soleil opened the door, her intern badge still hanging from her neck. "Thank God you're here," she whispered, pulling me inside. "They're all in the study, arguing about whether to tell you everything." The familiar scent of Mom's expensive candles, mixed with Dad's cigars, hit me as I walked through the foyer. Voices echoed from down the hall, angry, desperate voices. "We can't tell her about that." That was Ronald, sounding panicked. "If she knows?" "If I know what?" I announced my presence, stepping into the study. Four heads snapped toward me. Mom sat rigid in her leather armchair, perfectly coiffed as always, but her hands were shaking as she held her wine glass. Dad stood by the window, looking older than I remembered, his shoulders hunched under his expensive suit. Ronald paced near the fireplace, while Oscar, surprisingly, sat in the corner, clutching a manila folder. "Scarlett," Mom attempted her usual commanding tone, but it wavered. "You didn't have to dress so casually." I glanced down at my yoga pants and designer sweater, both from my latest product line. My money spends the same regardless of what I'm wearing, doesn't it? "About that," Ronald stepped forward. "We need $2 million, Dad cut in, turning from the window. "We need $2 million by the end of the month." The room fell silent. Even the grandfather clock seemed to hold its breath. $2 million? I let out a low whistle. "That's quite a retirement fund, Dad. What happened to all those billable hours?" "It's complicated," Ronald started, but Oscar stood up. "Tell her the truth," he said, waving the folder. "All of it. Or I will." Mom's wine glass shattered on the hardwood floor. "Oscar, you promised." "I promised to keep quiet when I thought it was a one-time thing," he snapped. "But this? This is systematic fraud." I settled into the leather sofa, crossing my legs. "Well, this just got interesting. Please, continue." "There's nothing to continue," Ronald insisted, but his face had gone pale again. "We just need a loan, a temporary loan." "No," I said simply. "What you need is confession time, full disclosure, or I walk out that door and let whatever's in Oscar's folder take its course." Dad slumped into a chair. "Ronald, tell her." "Dad, no." "Tell her about the gambling," Dad's voice cracked. "Tell her what you did with the client trust accounts." Ronald's legs seemed to give out, and he sank to the floor. I had a system. It was supposed to work. I was going to pay it all back before anyone noticed." "How much?" I asked. 800,000, he whispered. "Jesus Christ, Ronald," I breathed. "But that's not 2 million. What else?" Mom stood up, glass crunching under her Louboutins. "That's enough for tonight. Scarlett, if you're going to help us—" "Oh, I haven't decided yet," I interrupted. "And we're not done. Oscar?" He opened the folder. "There's more. The missing money from the client accounts is just the beginning. Someone's been selling case information to rival firms, and there's evidence of tax evasion going back 5 years. It was necessary," Dad said quietly. "The firm was struggling. Your brother's problem. It all snowballed." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Necessary? Like cutting off my college fund was necessary?" Mom flinched. "We never—" "Save it." I held up my hand. "Here's the deal. I'll consider helping, but first, I want everything. Every secret, every lie, every betrayal. You've got 48 hours to come clean. All of you." "Or what?" Ronald asked. I stood up, smoothing my sweater. "Or I'll make sure that folder finds its way to the ethics board, and the IRS, and every news outlet in the state." "You wouldn't," Mom gasped. "We're your family." "Family?" I walked to the door, then turned back. Family doesn't disown someone for following their dreams. Family doesn't mock someone's success because it doesn't fit their narrow vision. You want my help? Earn it. As I walked out, Oscar followed me. In the foyer, he grabbed my arm. There's more, he whispered. Things not in the folder. Dark things. Be careful what you wish for. I shook him off gently. That's exactly what I'm counting on, Oscar. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Through the window, I saw Soleil watching me from the garden, her face a mixture of fear and admiration. I gave her a small wave before getting in my car. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with a text from Ronald. Please don't make us do this. It's not just money that's missing. I smiled in the darkness. The game was on, and for once, I held all the cards. The next morning, Oscar called to meet at a small diner on the outskirts of town. The kind of place lawyers from prestigious firms wouldn't be caught dead in, which was exactly why he chose it. You look terrible, I said, as he slid into the booth across from me. His tie was crooked, and he hadn't shaved. Haven't slept. He ordered coffee from the waitress, then lowered his voice. Your mother's been calling everyone, trying to damage control. But here's what you don't know. There was an embezzlement scandal 10 years ago. The firm covered it up. I stirred my coffee slowly. Before my time there. But not before your time in the family, he said meaningfully. Remember when you were 18 and they suddenly couldn't afford to send you to that art school in Paris? The memory hit like a punch to the gut. They said the market crashed, that they had to tighten their belts. The market was fine. The money went to cover up the scandal. But here's the kicker. Nobody knows who took the money. Your father protected someone. My phone buzzed. A text from Soleil. Uncle Edwin's office is crazy right now. Shredding documents. Lots of them. I showed Oscar the message. His face darkened. That's not good. That's really not good. Tell me everything you know, I said. From the beginning. Before he could answer, the diner's door chimed. Mom walked in, looking completely out of place in her designer suit. Heads turned as she clicked across the linoleum floor. Well, isn't this cozy? She slid uninvited into our booth. Oscar, dear, don't you have client meetings this morning? Actually, he started. That wasn't a question. Her smile was arctic. Leave us. Oscar looked at me. I nodded slightly, and he gathered his things. Remember what I said, he murmured as he left. Mom waited until he was gone before speaking. The creditors are coming tomorrow. We need an answer. You need a confession, I corrected. Start with Paris. She flinched. What about Paris? The art school. The money that mysteriously vanished. Who did Dad cover for? I don't know what you're talking about. But her hand trembled as she straightened her pearl necklace. Really? Should we call Dad and ask? Or maybe Ronald knows something? Leave your brother out of this. The sharpness in her voice drew stares. She lowered it to a harsh whisper. You have no idea what you're stirring up. My phone buzzed again. Soleil. They found something in the shredder. Something bad. Come quick. Looks like we'll have to cut this short. I showed Mom the text. The color drained from her face. Scarlett, wait. She grabbed my wrist as I stood. There are things you don't understand. Things that would hurt people you care about. Like you hurt me? I pulled free. 48 hours, Mom. Clock's ticking. At the firm, Soleil met me in the parking garage. She looked terrified. They're fighting in Dad's office, she whispered. Something about missing evidence in the Marshall case. We took the stairs to avoid being seen. Through the glass walls of Dad's corner office, I could see him and Ronald in a heated argument. Papers littered the floor. The Marshall case? I asked Soleil. What's that about? Big corporate lawsuit from last year. The firm won, but... She hesitated. Oscar said some evidence went missing before the trial. Evidence that would have changed everything. Raised voices leaked through the door. You promised you destroyed those papers, Ronald shouted. I thought I did. Dad's voice cracked. Your mother was supposed to handle it. Handle what? I pushed open the door. They froze like guilty teenagers. Get out, Dad ordered, but his voice lacked its usual authority. No. I crossed my arms. What did Mom handle? Ronald laughed hysterically. You want to tell her, Dad? Want to tell her how Mom doctored evidence? How she's been doing it for years? Dad sank into his chair. Ronald, stop. Why? She wants the truth? Here it is. He turned to me. Mom's been falsifying evidence since before you were born. It's how we won half our cases. And now the proof is somewhere in this building. My phone rang. Freya. Turn on the news, she said without greeting. Channel 7. I pulled out my tablet and loaded the local news website. The headline made my blood run cold. Whistleblower claims decades of fraud at prestigious law firm. Dad saw it over my shoulder and collapsed forward, head in his hands. Oh, God! Ronald grabbed his phone. I'm calling Mom. But before he could dial, another text from Oscar appeared on my screen. Check your email. You need to see what I just found in the archived files. The house of cards was falling, and it was falling faster than even I had expected. The family gathered in the study again that evening, but this time the atmosphere was different. The whistleblower story had sent shockwaves through the legal community, and everyone looked shell-shocked. Mom paced the room like a caged animal, while Dad stared vacantly at his laptop screen. Who leaked it? Ronald demanded, waving his phone. Our phones are ringing off the hook. Clients are pulling out. I sat in the same spot as yesterday, but now I held Oscar's email open on my tablet. Maybe we should talk about the Marshall case first. Mom stopped pacing. What about it? The evidence you destroyed. I swiped through the scanned documents Oscar had sent. The ones that would have shown your client was knowingly poisoning a water supply? That's privileged information, Dad said weakly. Was privileged, I corrected, until someone saved copies. Want to guess who? Soleil appeared in the doorway, clutching a stack of papers. I found more in the storage room. You? Mom advanced on her. You're the whistleblower? No. Soleil stepped back. But I've been watching, learning, like how Uncle Ronald's gambling debts weren't just from casinos. Ronald's face contorted. You little... Careful, I warned. She's not the enemy here. You did this to yourselves. Oh, that's rich. Mom spun toward me. You want to talk about betrayal? Let's talk about how you're enjoying this. How you've been waiting for this moment. Like you waited to tell me about Paris? I stood up. About how you used my college fund to cover up evidence tampering? Dad's head snapped up. Who told you that? Does it matter? I walked to the drink cart, poured myself a whiskey. What matters is what else you're hiding, so start talking. You first, Ronald challenged. Tell us who's been feeding you information. Multiple sources. I took a sip. Turns out when you treat people badly enough, they keep receipts. A commotion from the foyer interrupted us. Oscar burst in, breathing hard. They're coming. The ethics board, the FBI. All of them. Tomorrow morning. Mom sank into a chair. It's over. Not necessarily, I said. You still have tonight. One chance to come clean. All of you. And then what? Dad asked. You'll help us? Maybe. Depends on what you confess. Ronald cracked first. The gambling. It wasn't just me. Dad knew. He helped cover it up, used client funds. Ronald! Dad shouted, but the dam had broken. The Marshall case wasn't the first, Mom said quietly. I've been altering evidence for 20 years. Major cases, criminal cases. Soleil gasped. People went to prison. People deserved prison, Mom snapped. We just helped the process along. Jesus, I whispered. And Paris? My school? Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. We needed the money to pay off a judge. A case was going sideways. Your mother, she made the call. It was for the family, Mom insisted. Everything I did was for this family. No, I set down my glass hard. It was for your reputation, your precious legacy. That's why you couldn't stand it when I left, when I succeeded on my own. Because I proved we didn't need your lies to make it. Oscar stepped forward. There's more. The ethics board found evidence of offshore accounts, money laundering. Ronald went pale. That's not possible. Those were untraceable. Nothing's untraceable anymore, Oscar said. And I have proof that links all of you, except Scarlett and Soleil. Mom stood suddenly. You're the whistleblower. Oscar straightened his tie. Someone had to stop this, before it went too far. Too far? Dad laughed bitterly. Look around, it's already gone too far. My phone buzzed. A news alert. The story had gone national. Our family name was trending on social media. Tomorrow morning, I said, federal agents will walk through that door. They'll have warrants, questions, and handcuffs. Tonight is your last chance to get ahead of this. By doing what? Ronald asked. By confessing, publicly, on your own terms. I pulled up my tablet again. I have a platform, millions of followers. Tell the truth now, show remorse, maybe save something of yourselves. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. Try me. Soleil stepped forward. I'll go first. I've kept quiet too long. One by one, they looked at each other, then at me. The mighty had fallen, and I held their fate in my hands. The revenge I'd dreamed of was playing out better than I could have imagined. Time to face the music, I said, opening my camera app. Who's next? The confessions started like a slow avalanche. Soleil went first, her voice trembling as she detailed years of watching, documenting, staying silent. Then Ronald broke down, spilling everything about his gambling addiction and the client funds he'd stolen. But that's not the worst part, he said, staring directly into my camera. When Scarlett's college fund disappeared, that was because of me. I lost it all betting on a fixed horse race. Mom lunged forward. Ronald, stop! No, let him finish. I kept the camera steady. Tell them what happened next, Mom. She sank back into her chair, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I covered it up. Told Scarlett the market crashed. We used her dreams to protect our reputation. And Paris wasn't the only dream you stole, was it? I prompted. The wellness business, she whispered. When you first started, you asked for a small loan. We had the money. We had millions. But you told me I was embarrassing the family, I finished. That no daughter of yours would sell snake oil on the internet. Dad stood up suddenly, loosening his tie. I need to show you something. He walked to the old painting behind his desk and swung it aside, revealing a wall safe. His hands shook as he entered the combination. Edwin, don't, Mom pleaded, but he pulled out a thick folder. The Marshall case evidence wasn't the first thing your mother altered. 20 years ago, she helped cover up a fatal drunk driving accident. The driver was her brother. My Uncle James? I remembered him vaguely. He'd moved abroad when I was young. The one who died in that boating accident? There was no boating accident, Dad said. He fled the country. We helped him disappear. Oscar stepped forward. The offshore accounts were to support him, Mom cut in. And others. People we'd helped. People who knew too much. My followers were flooding the live stream with shocked comments. The view count kept climbing. Tell them about the rival firms, Soleil said suddenly. About the leaked documents. Ronald's head snapped up. That was you? No, I saw an opportunity, she replied. The firms paid well for inside information. I thought I could use the money to start over somewhere else. Be free of all this. Like mother, like daughter, I commented, turning the camera to Mom. Want to tell them about your side business? The one where you sold case strategies to opposing counsel? The room fell silent. Dad turned to Mom, his face ashen. Naomi, how else could we afford all this? She gestured around wildly. The house, the cars, your gambling debts, James's new life. Someone had to keep this family afloat. By sinking other families, I said. By destroying lives. Saika, I did what I had to do. She stood, facing the camera defiantly. You want the truth? Here it is. I built this firm from nothing. My father was a janitor. I clawed my way up, married into money, made connections. Everything I did was to maintain our position, to give my children opportunities. Opportunities you then stole from me, I said quietly. Because you were throwing them away, following some ridiculous dream instead of. A loud knock at the front door cut her off. Through the study window, we could see federal agents in the driveway. "They're early," Oscar said. Mom's face crumpled. "Turn it off. Please, Scarlett, turn off the camera." "No." I zoomed in on her face. "You wanted status? Recognition? Well, now you've got it. Millions of people are watching. This will never go away." "I'll lose everything," she whispered. "Now you know how it feels." The knocking grew louder. Dad walked to the door like a man heading to execution. Ronald pulled out his phone, probably to call his lawyer. Soleil began gathering the scattered documents. "Wait," Mom said suddenly. "There's one more thing, something not even your father knows." She looked directly into the camera. "The real reason I sabotaged your wellness business at the start, I was afraid." "Of what?" That you'd succeed. That you'd prove there was a better way than lies and corruption. That everything I'd built my life on was wrong." She laughed bitterly. "And look what happened. You did exactly that." The study door burst open. Federal agents flooded in, badges out, warrants in hand. "Federal agents! Everyone stay where you are!" I kept the camera rolling as they read rights, snapped handcuffs, began the process of dismantling my family's empire. Mom looked at me one last time as they led her away. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. I ended the live stream, my hands shaking. Millions had watched my family implode in real time. The revenge I'd dreamed of was complete. So why didn't it feel like victory? The media circus that followed was relentless. Reporters camped outside my apartment, hoping to get more dirt on the family that had imploded on social media. My wellness brand's followers had doubled overnight, but not for the reasons I'd worked so hard for. "You need to make a statement," Freya said, watching me pace around her closed cafe. "People are creating wild theories." My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the live stream. "Look at this," I showed her the latest message. "A true crime podcast wants an interview." "What about this one?" She pointed to a text from Soleil. "She needs help." I read the message. "They're freezing everyone's accounts. I can't pay rent. Can we talk?" "She's innocent in all this," Freya reminded me. "Like you were." Before I could respond, Oscar burst through the cafe door, looking frantic. "Turn on the news. Now!" Freya flipped on the wall-mounted TV. Dad was being led out of the courthouse in handcuffs, his face ashen. The headline scrolled beneath, "Senior partner collapses during federal questioning, rushed to hospital." "What happened?" I demanded. "The stress? His heart?" Oscar loosened his tie. "They were questioning him about the offshore accounts when he just fell. They're saying it might be serious." My phone rang, Mom calling from a lawyer's office number. I let it go to voicemail. "That's not all," Oscar continued. "The ethics board found more evidence. Cases going back decades. People wrongly convicted. Lives destroyed. It's worse than anyone thought." Freya touched my arm. "Scarlett." "I'm fine," I snapped, then immediately regretted it. "Sorry, I wanted revenge, not this," Oscar finished. "Sometimes when you pull one thread, the whole sweater unravels." My phone buzzed again. A news alert. Ronald had been caught trying to flee the country. "Your brother was at the airport," Oscar explained. "Had a fake passport and everything. They found him with a USB drive full of confidential client information he was planning to sell." "Jesus," I whispered. "When does it end?" The cafe door chimed again. Soleil walked in, looking exhausted. "They're searching the house now. Mom's having a breakdown, watching them box up everything." "Sit," Freya ordered, already making her signature comfort hot chocolate. "All of you, sit." We gathered around a table, 4 people caught in the aftermath of a storm I'd helped create. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, social media exploding, news updates, messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. "They want to know if you'll testify," Oscar said quietly. "The federal prosecutors. Your live stream confession gave them leverage, but your testimony could seal the case." "Against my own parents?" "Against criminals," he corrected. Who happened to be your parents? Soleil's phone chimed. She read the message and went pale. They found something in Uncle Ronald's private safe. Photos, documents. Oh, God! What? I asked. Evidence of other crimes. Blackmail material. He was collecting dirt on everyone, even family members. Insurance, he called it. My hands started shaking. Did he have anything on you? She shook her head. You were the only clean one. That's why they hated your success so much. It was legitimate. The TV was still running in the background. They were showing clips from my live stream now, interspersed with footage of Dad being loaded into an ambulance. Ms. Scarlett? A small voice came from the cafe entrance. A teenage girl stood there, clutching one of my wellness brand's journals. I wanted to say thank you for showing that you can succeed without compromising your integrity. I stared at her, throat tight. This was what I'd wanted, wasn't it? To prove them all wrong? To show that success didn't require lies and corruption? The prosecutors are waiting for your answer, Oscar reminded me gently. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Mom. Whatever you decide, you were right. I was afraid of your success because it showed everything I'd done was a choice, not a necessity. I looked around the table. At Oscar's loyalty, Freya's unwavering support, Soleil's quiet strength. Then at the young girl still hovering by the door, hope in her eyes. Tell the prosecutors I'll do it, I said finally. But not for revenge anymore, for the truth. Freya squeezed my hand. That's my girl. Outside, camera flashes lit up the darkening street as reporters noticed us through the window. The story wasn't over yet. But maybe, just maybe, the ending could be about more than revenge. One condition, though, I added. We help Soleil start over. She deserves her own chance to do things right. Soleil looked up, tears in her eyes. Really? Really? I nodded. It's time to break the cycle. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters as I made my way inside for the testimony. 3 months had passed since the live stream, but the media frenzy hadn't died down. If anything, each new revelation had fueled it further. Ms. Scarlett, how does it feel to testify against your mother? Any comment on your brother's attempted escape? Is it true your father's condition is deteriorating? I pushed through them without commenting, Freya and Oscar flanking me like bodyguards. Inside, the marble halls felt colder than I remembered. Ready? Oscar squeezed my shoulder. Before I could answer, Mom appeared from a side corridor, flanked by her lawyers. She'd lost weight in custody, her designer suit hanging loose, her hair showing gray at the roots. Scarlett? She called out. Please, just 5 minutes. Her lawyers started to object, but she waved them off. I nodded to Freya and Oscar, who stepped away, giving us space but staying within sight. Make it quick, I said. I'm due in court. I saw your latest product launch, she said, surprising me. The meditation app, it's really good. That's what you wanted to say? She wrung her hands, a nervous gesture I'd never seen before. No, I watched all your old videos last night, in my cell. The ones where you talk about authenticity and building something real. Mom, let me finish. You were right, about everything. I was so focused on maintaining our image that I forgot what it meant to actually be good at something. To earn success. A bailiff appeared at the end of the hall. They're ready for you, Ms. Scarlett. I have to go. Wait, Mom grabbed my arm. Ronald made a full confession this morning, about everything, even things we didn't know about. It's bad, Scarlett. Really bad. Worse than what we already know? She nodded, tears forming. He implicated Dad in some serious criminal activity, the kind that means he might not leave prison alive. My stomach lurched. Dad's still in the hospital. I know, that's why. She took a shaky breath. That's why I'm pleading guilty, to everything. No deals, no reduced sentences. A full confession. Why? Because you taught me something about integrity. Too late, maybe, but I learned. She attempted a smile. Go in there, tell the truth, all of it. I deserve whatever comes next. The bailiff called again. Mom's lawyers appeared, ready to lead her away. One more thing, she said. That art school in Paris? They have an online program now. I saw Soleil looking at it on her phone during visitation. Maybe you could help her with that? I stared at her, this broken version of the woman who'd once seemed invincible. I already am. She starts next semester. For the first time in months, Mom's smile reached her eyes. You're a better person than I ever was. The courtroom fell silent as I took the stand. Faces stared up at me. Journalists, lawyers, curious onlookers. Ronald sat with his lawyers, unable to meet my eyes. Dad's seat was empty, the hospital monitors still beeping in my memory. Please state your name for the record. I leaned into the microphone. Scarlett! The courtroom doors burst open. Soleil rushed in, clutching her phone. Wait! They need to know. Dad's coding. The hospital just called. The judge banged his gavel as chaos erupted. Ronald jumped up, his lawyers trying to restrain him. Through the commotion, I locked eyes with Mom. She nodded slightly, understanding passing between us. Your Honor? I said into the sudden quiet. Before we continue, I need to tell the whole story. Not just about the crimes, but about the cost. About what happens when lies become a family legacy. Proceed, the judge said. So I did. I told them everything. About Paris, about the betrayals, about watching my family choose status over integrity time and time again. About building something real while they built castles of cards. And now? The prosecutor asked. How do you feel about your family's downfall? I looked at Mom, still proud even in handcuffs. At Ronald, finally facing his demons. At Soleil, who'd found the courage to choose a different path. I paused, finding the right words. I feel like sometimes things have to fall apart completely before they can be rebuilt the right way. My phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Dad had stabilized, but he'd never fully recover. Another consequence of choices made long ago. No more questions, the prosecutor said. As I stepped down from the stand, I realized this wasn't the revenge I'd planned. It was something else entirely. A reckoning, a cleansing, a chance for truth to finally see light. And maybe, just maybe, a chance for healing to begin. The autumn breeze rustled through the courtyard of the rehabilitation center as I walked toward the garden where Dad sat in his wheelchair. His recovery had been slow, but at least he was out of the hospital. You didn't have to come, he said as I approached, his voice weaker than I remembered. I wanted to. I sat on the bench beside him. Besides, I brought something you might want to see. I pulled out my tablet and opened the video call. Soleil's face appeared, the Parisian sunset glowing behind her. Uncle Edwin? She beamed. I just finished my first art exhibition. Online, of course, but still. Dad's hands trembled as he touched the screen. You look happy. I am. Thanks to Scarlett's program, I can study and work at the same time. The wellness brand's European launch is going amazing. I watched Dad's face as Soleil shared her artwork, her dreams, her new life. Something shifted in his expression. Pride, maybe, or regret. Probably both. Mom's sentencing is tomorrow, I said after we ended the call. I know. He stared at the falling leaves. Ronald called. He's accepting the full sentence, too. No more appeals. My phone buzzed. A message from Oscar. Ethics Board finished their review. All affected cases will be reopened. Justice delayed, but not denied. The firm's old clients, Dad said quietly. The ones we wronged. Are you really going to help them? Already am. We've set up a foundation to cover legal fees for appeals. Oscar's leading the team. Using your wellness money to fix our mistakes. Using it to make things right, I corrected. There's a difference. A nurse appeared with Dad's medications. While she helped him, I checked my emails. The wellness brand had just hit 8 million subscribers. The latest product line, focused on healing and forgiveness, was our most successful yet. Your mother, Dad said after the nurse left. She told me about Paris, about what really happened to your college fund. Dad, we don't need to. Yes, we do. He gripped his armrest. I failed you. Not just with the money, but with everything. I was so focused on the firm's legacy that I missed the real legacy right in front of me. Which was you. Your integrity. Your strength. He smiled sadly. Even your revenge turned into redemption. Freya's cafe had become my unofficial office, and that's where I headed next. She was waiting with fresh coffee and news. The documentary crew called again, she said. They want to tell the whole story, your story. No, I stirred my latte. Some things aren't for public consumption. Speaking of consumption, she slid over a newspaper. Your mom's wellness program is helping other inmates. They're calling it redemption through reflection now. I had to smile at that. Mom had taken my business model and adapted it for prison life, helping inmates face their truths and find peace. Her weekly letters showed a different woman emerging from the ashes of her old life. Oh, and this came for you. Freya handed me an envelope. Inside was a hand-drawn card from Soleil, showing a phoenix rising from flames. Below it, she'd written, "Thank you for showing me that success doesn't require sacrifice of self." The bell chimed as Oscar walked in, carrying files. Ready to review the next batch of appeals? Actually, I said, I have a better idea. I pulled out my tablet and opened the wellness app. The homepage showed our new initiative, Breaking Cycles, a guide to authentic success. We're going to tell our story, I explained. Not through a documentary or interviews, but through lessons. Real, honest lessons about integrity, accountability, and growth. Your revenge becoming a teaching tool? Freya laughed. Perfect. Not revenge anymore, I said. Restoration. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Mom. Watching your latest video. Finally understanding what you meant about building something real. Proud of you, even from in here. Especially from in here. Outside, the autumn wind scattered leaves across the sidewalk, clearing away the old to make room for the new. Just like us. Just like everything. So, Oscar sat down with his coffee. Where do we start? I looked at Freya's supportive smile, at Soleil's card, at Mom's message, at the legacy I was building, brick by honest brick. We start with the truth, I said. And this time, we tell it right.